before we even get into the music, I'm just going to say that this is one of the most unexpected album covers coming from at least what I'm familiar with, the Beach Boys. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you as always for being here, for showing up. You are here day in, day out. Maybe it's your first time here and you've never watched the channel before. You're like, who's this guy listening to this music? Listen, sometimes I don't even know who I am, but I'm glad that you're here. My name's Justin, and today we are going to do a full album listen for a Long Song Saturday of Surf's Up from the Beach Boys. This is their 17th studio album, released in 1971. I mean, that's a lot of albums, and I know they have a ton more, but this is the one that we are doing today. Let me just put this out here. I know that for a fact that this album has been recommended and suggested to me by a lot of you, but it is really hard for me to find names as I go through. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I have no names to I have no evidence, but I'm promising you, like, just take my word for it. I know that it's been suggested that I listen to this album. We've listened to Pet Sounds. We've actually listened to the song Surf's Up as well. But looking at the track list, there is nothing else here that I'm familiar with. So this will, for the most part, be all new material. And I hope that you guys are settled in, or I guess Surf's Up. And can I tell you, just first thing I'm thinking of is the title of the album is Surf's Up. And just looking at that album cover, just so dread and depressing. It is just so, like, downtrodden. I'm just imagining, like, Surf's Up is kind of like a play, like, not Surf's Up like the Beach Boys in their, like, surfing kind of poppy days. This is like, no, Surf's Up, like the end, you know? I think that if that's what it is kind of going for, but I'm excited to get into this one, honestly, just because of that album cover. It just gets my attention, and because it's from the Beach Boys. So anyways, I gotta tell you one more thing. The first track is called Don't Go Near the Water. I mean, if that's not, like, shaking off the Beach Boys image, at least from what I'm seeing, I don't know what is. Anyways, hope that you guys are here for it. Hope you're settled in. Grab a drink, grab something, whatever you want, as we go ahead and dive on into this oceanic journey, or I'm assuming oceanic journey. But let's go ahead and begin with the first track, Don't Go Near the Water. Press that like button before we even start. Press the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and do it. Here we go.
Oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams. Toothpaste and soap will make the oceans above.
Okay, that is a fantastic opening track to the album. So starting off already with this kind of ominously played piano, that sounds a little barsy, right? But the notes that it's playing are, like, slightly, just like, it's slightly off. There's a little bit of, like I said, an omnicity, I guess, if you will, to it. But as the song progresses and as the music goes on, it's not like the Beach Boys have, and this is with my very limited knowledge, by the way, it's not like they've shifted and taken off their image. It's not like they've gotten rid of the things that make them who they are. They're just taking that and kind of rearranging the formula, adding a little bit of something extra in, a strong message in this track, and then taking other things out. You still have, of course, those great harmonies. In the second verse there, I don't know who, we'll look into it, but whoever is singing lead at that particular moment has a little bit more roughness than I'm expecting listening to the Beach Boys, and I really like that approach into it. There's some kind of, I would describe as water-like sounds. There's kind of like this wobbling that's kind of weaving its way in there. And then it just keeps on progressing and changing. There's so many interesting things to, like, listen to in here, and at the same time, it's fun. It's still catchy, but like I said, it has a nice little message alongside with it as well. Don't go near the water. Don't you think it's sad? What's happened to the water? Our water's going bad. So let me kick it off immediately with this. The first verse and the title of the song, Don't Go Near the Water. To me, it's kind of scary, kind of reminiscent of Jaws. Matter of fact, this album came out in 1971. When was Jaws released? Is this a reference to Jaws in some way? No, Jaws came out in 1975. Okay. Well, missed opportunity for Jaws to use this in, like, a trailer or something. Anyways, even though the soundtrack is iconic. Anyways, but then the second line, don't you think it's sad? So it already kind of takes away the the tension, at least that I'm feeling, when I look at the song title and the first line of the song. It takes away that because now we're giving something to reflect upon. Don't you think it's sad? Well, what's sad about it? Well, what's happened to the water? The water's going bad. Oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams have all been touched by man. The poison floating out to sea now threatens life on land. So now we're getting this kind of ecological disaster, climate, and stuff like that. And I like their approach into that because now you're really getting the focus and the heart of the message. You know, it kind of breaks from that mold, but still is very pointed. I think that they do a fantastic job of that. Don't go near the water. Don't go near the water. Toothpaste and soap will make our oceans a bubble bath. So let's avoid an ecological aftermath. Beginning with me, beginning with you. It's just a call to action to do the best we can in assisting nature instead of desisting nature. No, hurting nature. It says here, written by Mike Love and Al Jardine, the song puts an ironic ecological spin on the traditional Beach Boys beach and surf-based songs. Instead of enjoying surfing and other fun activities, this time the listener is advised to avoid the water for environmental issues. So I guess even just looking at that line, yeah, there are fun and more notable songs that are like an invitation to fun, party in the sun and everything, and of course to get in the water. Well, now we're given an opposite message from the same group telling us to get away and stay away from the water. That is really smart, actually. It says the song was recorded at the same session as Long Promised Road and 4th of July. We haven't heard those yet. Lead vocals are by Love and Jardine. Yeah, it's a really great track. And it looks like, I'm assuming what the sound was that I was hearing is possibly Al Jardine on the electric guitar, which apparently was fed through a Moog synthesizer. Not a Moog sympathizer. You play a key and it says, "Oh, it's going to be okay." That's a good joke. Someone could draw that joke. That's a good one. If anyone ever uses that, make sure it comes back to me. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on into the next track here on the album, which is going to be Long Promised Road. Let's go.
So hard to answer future. My soul automatically soared, but I hit hard at the matter. Speaks of only today.
So tenderly sung.
So real the pain of growing in.
With the guitar as an aside, nice charge. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, how smoothly and tenderly sung are the lyrics and the delivery there. It's just so soothing and like just so passionate to listen to. It's comforting, right? I gotta say, when the snare comes in, it makes such an impact. Not just because of what, part of the drum set it is, of course. Like that impact from the snare is just notable. But production-wise, I mean, there's some extra I don't know what, but there's some production magic that makes it really pop and stand out. As if to enunciate the lyrics that are being sung at that particular moment in the delivery. That is just gorgeous. Then that little moment at about 1 minute and 30 seconds when I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure it's probably the Moog again, some synthesizer, and then maybe organ, because you could hear like kind of that organ texture with the sparkly, I don't know, whatever they are, the keys there with the Moog, and just a really gorgeous combination that really kind of lifted everything. And then of course we go back to the verse afterwards. But that was just such a little, I know I'm going back to this time in this era, but that was really a far out moment there. And then in the lyrics, you hear the backing harmonies going down, 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 like they're singing down, down, and their notes are actually cascading down. So just one of those nice little touches. The moment with I think it's a synth. No, it is a synth. It has to be. And then the electric guitar, that spicy little lead, that little spicy little Tabasco sauce dropped in the mix. Burn it up. Some horns to blast it off into the next ether. I'm with it. This is going to be a good album, but it's the Beach Boys. I expected it. I know this one is one that a lot of people seem to enjoy. So hard to answer future's riddle when ahead is seeming so far behind. So hard to laugh a childlike giggle when the tears start to torture my mind. So this album, at least from the first two tracks, is seeming to be a little bit more introspective, a lot more reflective and kind of looking within. And, of course, without. So hard to shed the life of before to let my soul automatically soar. But I hit hard at the battle that's confronting me, knock down all the roadblocks that's stumbling me, throw off the shackles that are binding me down, 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 down. So we get this dual message. In the verse, feeling downtrodden, feel like life is hard, and perhaps a little bit of a nihilistic view of certain things. But then, just as the chorus elates itself, the message changes into one of hope and looking forward to the light at the end of the tunnel. Like a good light at the end of the tunnel, not the end of the tunnel. Sew up the wounds of evolution and now starts to get in my way. So what if life's a revelation, if the mind speaks of only today? So real the pain of growing in soul, of climbing up to reality's goal. Long Promised Road trail starts at dawn, carries on to the season's ending. Long Promised Road flows to the source, gentle force never ending. That actually sounds like something John Anderson would write. But they're basically describing life in those lyrics there. The promised road, the road of life, it starts at dawn and it carries on until that season's end. But what you do on the road makes all the difference there. It says on this particular song, Jack Riley said, "That was the first Beach Boys lyric I wrote. Carl asked me to have a hand in it. I felt that I was onto something." Van Dyke Parks wrote ethereal lyrics. Surf's Up's a masterpiece, but it's also ethereal. I was writing personal lyrics, love songs with a sense of poetry. I was trying to tell a tale of life and love that we go through at different times in life. And he goes on there. There's that screaming deep guitar which holds the song together and gives it relevancy beyond the first minute and 30 seconds. I worked very hard with him on this performance. Carl was very proud of it. So you are going to have Carl Wilson on the lead vocals on this particular track, alongside handling that, the Wurlitzer electric piano, the Hammond organ, okay, the Moog synthesizer, there you go again, and some of that extra percussion in there. Fantastic stuff, that one. Let's move on into the next track here, which is Take a Load Off Your Feet. Like I said at the beginning of the video, relax, you're here for the long haul. Let's just ride it out.
I do 'em when I'm down in the tub.
Better take care of your life, 'cause nobody else will.
Just take a walk in the better watch out what you eat.
Such a pleasant little like tune there, but you have all those little moments of experimentation, the sound effects that come in, really taking into account like the room, the studio, and bringing that, of course, like the Beatles would do as well, but like bringing all those different sound effects, the songwriting. So when he mentions, what does he say? Let me get the line right. He says like when he's getting in the driver's seat or something like that. Anyways, I can't find the line now, but you hear the car horn play. You hear like the kind of like this glass shuffling sound, and he mentions the glass. Someone says "ow." Like it's these little moments that kind of bring you into the actual story of the music rather than it just being a pleasant song, right? Because I feel like 17th album, this is after Pet Sounds, and I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking on what I think, but it's like the Beach Boys want to do something deeper in a different way. You know, they have something to say. They have music they need to play, and they want to get that out in a very specific way. And I feel like they're doing that here. They're taking those chances, taking those risks, because they can afford to take those risks, and they're doing a fantastic job of it so far. I also want to say that they are just masters when it comes to melody, to writing a catchy hook, to putting a nice message within that hook, so that even as you're repeating it in your mind, you're putting a little bit of good seed in your mind for hopefully some flowers to be blooming later on, you know? It's just really, really great stuff all around in there. I do them I do them when I'm down in the tub with avocado cream. They'll take a rub. They wrinkle like a raisins. If I stay too long, I wouldn't want to do it wrong. Talking about his fingers, I'm assuming there. They'll put you in the driver's seat. That's when you hear the and to the table when you want to eat. But when you go to sit down in your chair, something else has got to put you there. Take good care of your feet, Pete. You better watch out what you eat, Pete. Better take care of your life because no one else will. So I think that they're just basically using the anatomy, like your foot, and taking care of your feet as a metaphor for the grander walk of life, I guess you could argue. In that, if you take care of your feet, or the foundation of who you are, you guys know my point. I just lost it. If you take care of your foundation and your spiritual mobility and where you're walking to in your life, you'll go further. That's what I'm trying to get across. They'll twinkle when you fall in love and put you there when you jump above. When you're on the spot, get them right under you, one, then the other two. If you want to do the right thing for them, just take a walk in the grass. But don't you catch yourself falling or stepping on a piece of glass. Pete knows all the treacherous blows, the fallen arches and the cramp in the toes. He went to help and got some new sandals, and dusty old saunas too. And then they just end up with the do-do-do-do-do-do-do's. I like the relatively straightforward and simple lyrics, if you read them that way, but then the meaning behind it, or what I assume is the meaning behind it. I could be wrong. It really could just be talking about your feet. Nothing wrong with that. It says here that I guess they were originally writing a song called Hair, or with the song Hair being popular at the time, somebody suggested writing a similar song about ankles. That song turned into Take a Load Off Your Feet. Brian Wilson would later add some lyrics and the melody. Jardine said, I was wearing Birkenstock sandals and I read the instructions that came with them. It was inspiring to read how important your feet are to the rest of your body. And so Brian and I got carried away. He'd come down at night and sit and play the bottles. We walked around on the roof. There was skipping sound on the end of the song. And you know, there was that was Brian on the asphalt roof of the garage, skipping around in a circle. So they actually really broke the fourth wall in a certain way, bringing in those sound effects, using their feet to do it. I mean, you can't beat that. And I do think it's quite hilarious when I'm looking at the instrumental list, because obviously the violin, you hear it being played at the end, first picked, and then actually strung to the bow. But I do see it's funny that one of the instruments listed on this particular track is a Rolls-Royce Phantom V. Why not? Throw it in there. Let's go ahead and listen to the next track here, which is going to be Disney Girls. Sorry, there's like a little piece of dust that just... Disney Girls. Let's go.
Just in time, words that rhyme will bless your soul.
This is like a slow dance at the prom song.
Fantasy world. Hi Rick and Dave, hi Pop, good morning Mom. Fantasy world.
Is Disney Girls one of the best tracks on the album so far? I'm hard pressed to say quite yes. Like, that was enchanting. Be honest with me. If you've stuck with me this far, at this point in the album listen, right? I don't even know how to describe it. Their dense, melodic, melodious layering of voices. How long could you have listened to this track on repeat with the way that they were singing? Because I'm glad it's one of those moments that, like, I'm glad it happened, but man, I can't wait to listen to this one again on my own. Their voices are just purely magical. I mean, there's no other way to describe it other than they're just magical. The little vocal interlude, the vocal bridge that happens in here. As if the song wasn't already wonderful enough, sweetly romantic, gorgeously tender, beautifully moving, we get to the vocal bridge. And it's kind of like those the organ Moog section that we heard previously. It's just one of those moments that, like, immediately just skyrockets the song into this other tier. And then they do a little transition there the same way in the end, and it's just bringing it all back together. That's full circle. That's fantastic. I'm pretty sure it's guitar that's making that wow wow kind of sound throughout in there. And I like how it is another unique vibe that we're hearing with that sound of the guitar, but it doesn't at all interrupt, take away, or contend for a certain leadership role melodically with the vocals, because that is the heart. Everything else is there, but it's just a little, like, additive. It's just a little side thing. You know, for example, my wife and I went out to dinner last night with a few people, and I got this ahi tuna sashimi thingy with, like, salad and some other stuff, right? And on the side, they gave me some soy sauce. They gave me some wasabi cream sauce. I'm not a wasabi person, but I was like, let me try this cream sauce. It was really nice, right? I didn't dump that onto the food because I didn't want that to overpower it. You just kind of lightly use it just to give a little bit of extra. Same thing with what I'm assuming that guitar is. It just gives a little extra and unique flavor without taking over the main heart of the dish, the song. Let's look into these lyrics, huh? Clearing skies and drying eyes. This was so, like, beautifully romantic. This so good. Clearing skies and drying eyes, now I see your smile. Darkness goes and softness shows a changing style. Just in time, words that rhyme will bless your soul. Now I'll fill your hands with kisses and a Tootsie Roll. I don't know about you guys, but I never liked Tootsie Rolls that much. I had ate them, when I was a kid, like in school, but I didn't like love them. Oh, reality, it's not for me, and it makes me laugh. Oh, fantasy world and Disney girls, I'm coming back. Reality is a little harsh. It's not treating him the same way that he can dive into the movies, the films, the cinema, and be with the Disney girls. Patty Page in Summer Days, must be a Disney girl before my age. An old Cape Cod. Happy times making wine in my garage. Country shade and lemonade, guess I'm slowing down. It's a turned back world with a local girl in a smaller town. So he even has a little bit of he what's the word? Waxing poetic, I guess you could say. He's kind of looking back at his youth and realizing that time has moved forward. So this isn't just about like escaping into a fantastical world and looking back at, oh man, I wish I could be with a Disney girl because, reality is just not hitting the same way. It also seems to be a little bit of age here, a little bit of looking back at youth and being like, man, am I missing the glory days kind of right now? Or are you living the glory days? At least that's what I'm kind of hearing. Hi, Rick and Dave. Hi, Pop. Good morning, Mom. Get up. Guess what? I'm in love with a girl I found. She's really well because she likes church bingo chances and old-time dances. All my life, I spent the night with dreams of you and the warmth I missed. And for the things I wish, they're all coming true. I've got my love to give and a place to live. Guess I'm going to stay and be a peaceful life with a forever wife and a kid someday. So, all of what I said, that's what I'm feeling and thinking. But it's also accepting reality. And maybe you can have your Disney princess. And you know what I mean? I think that it's kind of all of that wrapped into it. Let's see how wrong I am. It says that this song is a nostalgic reflection sung from the viewpoint of a man who rejects reality in favor of the nostalgia he feels towards the fantasy world and the girls of Walt Disney movies and television shows. Songs by Patty Page and the days he made wine in his garage. Johnson said that he wrote the song because I saw so many kids in our audiences being wiped out on drugs, and he had wanted to capture the feeling of an era in which people were a little naive but a little healthier. So I think that's why I said you have that looking back, but I'm a little bit wrong on the exact parts of it. But either way, sounded quite nice though. And looking at it, it looks like that was electric guitar with the wah-wah pedal by Ed Carter, which I really should have known because it's going wow, wow. Let's move on into the next track here on the album. Let's see what that's going to be. That is going to be Student Demonstration Time. Let's go and see what they're demonstrating about. Thumpy kick, lazy guitar. Sounds like
the winds of change fanned into flame, student demonstration spar. Learn not to say nasty things about Southern policeman's mother.
The kicks changed. Okay, after the tender loving, the tender feelings of the previous track, this one, from the beginning, you heard the blazing little guitar, right? Fuzzy as everything. And how strongly it gets right into it. Going into a standard, was this 12 bar blues or whatever? Like going into like that, putting some interesting creative spins in there. Love how heavy and fuzzy, like I said, the guitar was. The police siren sound. I'm sure that I doubt that they had an actual police siren in the studio. They could have, but I'm sure like it's an instrument that they're somehow manipulating to sound like a police siren, because I expect that from the Beach Boys. But I also expect that they would just bring in. They brought in the Rolls Royce. They might as well just bring in a cop car to do it too. The nice stylistic callback to that era with that blues and the harmonies and the way they swing. And then bring in some more extra elements behind this very thought-provoking message. So, if I'm going back to what I said at the beginning, when I was kind of talking about the album cover and the name of the album and everything, I'm still holding to that. But, for example, this song is taking a real-life issue, a real piece of history, and almost writing a protest song kind of basically about that. So, instead of celebrating, like perhaps previous albums from the Beach Boys, once again, I'm just going to say it again, this one's much more personal, reflective, looking at different issues, social issues, not economic, ecological, and Don't Go Near the Water, and here, social. So like, I like the activism kind of aspect that we're seeing here, and the way that relates to the album's title of Surf's Up. I think that that's really, really cool. Also, how powerful the kick is, right? Specifically the kick throughout this song, just thumps. Now, as the music begins to turn up in the final quarter, when the harmonies are rising and everyone's going, like, you feel it jamming out, the piano's going blazing, right? As it gets into that culmination there, might be me, but that kick sounds like it almost becomes a little bit more distorted, a little bit. So it's not just, it's almost like more, I'm exaggerating because I can't make it subtle, but like, that's way too much. But there's a little extra like staticky feedback, something on there that once again is making me think about just how important the production is on this album. There was also something else I was going to mention. Oh yeah, talking about the drums, I like how in the first verse you just have 2 taps on the hi-hat, just carried along, right? But then on the third verse maybe we go just straight into 16th notes on the hi-hats. It was a small thing, but something I thought was kind of nice. Starting out with Berkeley free speech and later on at People's Park, the winds of change fan into flame student demonstrations spark. Down to Isla Vista, where police felt so harassed they called the special riot squad on the LA County Sheriff. Well, there's a riot going on, student demonstration time. That's what I also forgot to mention. I like how the vocals, as they're being sung / shouted, it sounds like students protesting with a bullhorn. I really like that, how they really put you in the action here. The violence spread down south to where Jackson State brothers learned not to say nasty things about Southern policemen's mothers. Nothing much was said about it and really next to nothing done. The pen is mightier than the sword, but no match for a gun. And one lyric I thought was really nice was, of course, referencing the Kent State University massacre there. It says here, 4 martyrs earned a new degree. The Bachelor of Bullets. Just the way that line cuts through everything, I think is so effective in the way that they've talked about all these different demonstrations and, you know, the riots and things that happen. Like, I think that they did a stellar job of telling the story and getting that message out there. It says the song, which this song is based on, Riot in Cell Block Number 9, was originally written by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller in 1954. Oh, okay. The song was subsequently performed live by the Beach Boys. In mid-1970, Mike Love rewrote the lyrics after learning of the Kent State shootings, where 4 unarmed college students protesting were killed. Of course, it says here, Stephen Desper, engineer of the Beach Boys, described the context behind the song. He says, if you lived through the 60s, the civil riots, the unrest, the anti-war demonstrations, the crowd of unruly students in the streets, every day and in-depth TV coverage of people being shot at close range coming into our living rooms every night, you might have more understanding of the why and wherefore of the song. Michael was seeing all this going on in Santa Barbara, California, where he lived. It was in his front yard. It was in all of our lives. It was a sick time. The country was sick, and much of it was needless. Michael was moved to write a song about war protest. His approach was to offer vocal advice to the listener as to what to do when you may be caught up in one of these civil unrest so as not to get killed. That's really interesting. Remember, Kent State was still in the news when the lyrics were written. That adds a new kind of context into the music and into the lyrics that we just read and listened to. I'm reading the lyrics again. I know we're all fed up with useless wars and racial strife, but next time there's a riot, well, you best stay out of sight. So this really is written directly as advice to protesters and the demonstrators. Doesn't that add like a whole new, I don't know. So, like, for me, it's 2023. It's like 50 years past when this album was released, you know? So I don't always have that context that some of you might have or others might have with this, you know, music and of course any others. So just to have that little bit of knowledge there gives a totally different, not only insight, but appreciation into the music. And in this case, to the Beach Boys. Let's go ahead and move on into the next side of the album. That was a quick side, huh? Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. Moving on to side 2 of Surf's Up. You guys know what I like to do. Make sure you're still watching. Make sure you're still paying attention. The analytics always say 20-30% are watching around the halfway mark. Well, I want to see who's watching. So I got a question for you, and you can put your answer in the comments down below. Of course, you can follow along with your usual comment. But relating back to the 4th track on the album, who's your favorite Disney princess? It's an easy one. Come on. Now, I'm going to cheat because I'm not choosing a Disney princess. I'm going to choose Chell from The Road to El Dorado. If you've never seen it, just type in Chel, C-H-E-L. Let's go ahead and listen to the first song on side 2 of the album. That's going to be Feel Flows. Let's go. How about into it? Let's go.
Disappear where the wind withers memory.
Well then. New flute? What in the synth is that? So, opening up side 2 of the album, we are greeted with this, to me, very daydream-esque, very floaty and airy, ethereal music. It is just so sensational. That's not the word I want to use. It is just so sensationally floaty. Like, it's just like you're just, I don't know, on cloud 9. I guess this actually feels like the musical equivalent of just being on cloud 9, just at peace. Obviously, the singing and the harmonies are a beautiful, beautiful part of this music. But what sounds like reversed vocals, kind of just like underneath the vocal line, is really unique. Adds a new dimension with, once again, not being overpowering. It's just a little atmosphere beneath the main vocal lines and underneath those harmonies, which I thought was really nice. And then as the music progresses, one thing I liked is that there's no drums that are present. I think that there's just maybe a wood block or something that's keeping rhythm, but there's no drums. It's floating on its own melodic airs, and it doesn't need anything else. It's perfect as it is. The inclusion and bringing in of, first of all, the guitar and the flute at the same time. The way they both enter is just really magical. Like, that's one of those sparks in the music as it goes. Because you're like, first of all, it's unexpected, right? The guitar alone is unexpected at this point because everything we've heard before is so soft and cloudy. Now we're getting into something a little hot, a little sunnier with that guitar buzzing around. But then, soothing it all over, nice little flute to go alongside with it. And then what happens? Kick out the flute, and then comes a saxophone. And you're like, where is this going? And that's only like at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like, I don't... It's not even like near the end of the song. We still have a little bit more of that road of life to go on. And I think the way that they include everything without disrupting the nature of the music and the composition is just creative genius, if you will. Let's look at these lyrics here. Unfolding, enveloping missiles of soul, recall senses sadly. Mirages like soft blue, like lanterns below, to light the way gladly. Whether whistling heaven's clouds disappear, whether wind withers memory, whether whiteness whisks soft shadows away. Feel flows, white puff glistening shadowy flow. Feel goes, black puff glistening shadowy glow. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know what we're talking about, but it seems to be almost like some sort of, I don't know, like you take in and then you give out. What you take in is what you give out, maybe? The unfolding, the opening, the enveloping, the closing and holding. So like there's this movement, which I'm kind of thinking is this feel flow. This flow back and forth in some way. Unbending, never-ending tablets of time. Record all the yearning, unfearing, all appearing message divine. Eases the burning, whether willing witness waits at my mind. A lot of alliteration here. Whether hope dampens memory, whether wondrous will stand tall at my side. I gotta tell you, I have no idea what it's about, but it's very relaxed. It says here, let's see what it might be about. Asked about the song in 2013, Riley said, one of the finest experiences in a studio that I had. Carl put together a raw bones concept and gave me a tape. I took it home, listened to it over and over. The lyrics started coming out of me, a reflection of the sensitive side of life. I'm so proud of them. Carl's guitar solo might be the best he ever played. There is a point in the song where you hear a synth and then there's a swoosh sound. Carl and I have been told by a number of girls that was the closest they'd heard to the sound that would go with an orgasm. Well, that's interesting. I gotta say, I've never thought of okay. Oh, Wilson's lead vocals were recorded using reverse echo. The saxophone and flute were both played by jazz musician Charles Lloyd. As Mike Love commented, it's amazing. It's like unlike anything we ever did. Absolutely gorgeous. That was a really, really beautiful track there. Before we move on to the next one, I'm just going to close my blinds real quick because I'm sure the clock popped up or whatever, but it's 7:20, and over here it gets a bit dark. And when there's lights on in the room and it's dark outside, I don't want people seeing in like that. So let's go ahead and listen to the next track here. Matter of fact, let's take the next two together, since the next one is just about 2 minutes long. Looking at Tomorrow, a welfare song, and then A Day in the Life of a Tree, which actually sounds kind of interesting. What do trees do when we're not around? Do they make a sound? Well, we'll find out. Let's go.
I've been laying on my back like a freight train off a track. Home tonight, and everything will be alright.
My branches suffer, and my is
Wow. Those both were incredible tracks. The melody of Welfare was just haunting, gorgeous. It reminds me of another song, and I don't know what that is, but the guitar notes and the way that's being played even, I can't quite tell you what, but it just sounds like another song that I've heard. But even regardless of that, like, it was just so wonderful. Like, a short little track, but it leaves a very great little melodic impact. And there was like a brief little explosion of, I want to say it was organ, maybe it was a synth. Sometimes the sounds, I don't even know. But whatever it was a beautiful little firework, and then back to the fading into the darkness of the music. I think that was really fantastic. But let's talk about Life of a Tree. Let's talk about this one, because I like how, once again, with the Beach Boys, they have these concepts, they have certain messages that they want to get across, but above all is composition and songwriting. So once again, we're really brought into the life of a tree here, which I guess on some scale could sound silly, could sound far-fetched. What are you talking about? Singing about the life of a tree? But the way that they do that and approach it, doesn't it come across with so much creative sensitivity? For example, the way that the singing is alongside the organ is very hymnal, right? It sounds like perhaps a tree it is about a tree near the end of its days. It's on its final ring, you know, like it's about to fall, get chopped down, whatever's going to happen. And I like how this tree, with whom we're singing from the perspective of, looks back nostalgically on its days. And when it does look back nostalgically, you hear the birds fluttering, because it even talks about like nests being made in its branches and stuff. You hear the birds fluttering there. And then, like, as this realization that the life is ending, the rest of the band comes in singing alongside, pushing those harmonies. And it's not bright, hopeful, we have a future harmonies. They're kind of melancholy. They're kind of sad, pre-grieving. And I think that the way that the band has done that is just like brilliant. I'm extremely impressed listening to this. Basically, is what I'm getting across. Let's look at the lyrics at Looking at Tomorrow, and then Tree after. I've been laying on my back like a freight train off a track, trying to find a job to fit my trade. With the morning sun come around, well, I'll be covering plenty of ground, and I don't need nobody to pay my aid. Now Bess and me were feeling bad, and all the good jobs they were had, I had to take up sweeping some floors. Well, I don't mind that so much, or the changing of my luck, but you know I could be doing so much more. Well, I'll be coming home tonight, everything will be alright, and we'll be looking at tomorrow. So, not a ton to dive into that one, just, you know, things may not be great now, maybe I lost my job, maybe I'm not working right now, but I am going to try, I'm going to put my best foot and effort forward, and I may not get what I want. I may not get what my trade is in. I may not get the payout I'm looking for. I may not find that perfect job, but I'm okay sweeping floors for now, because at least I know that, you know, we'll be fed. We'll make money to get by, and maybe that other opportunity will come along. And then going back to Day in the Life of a Tree, even the singing is done so sadly and so solemnly. Feel the wind burn through my skin, the pain, the air is killing me. That makes me think back to the kind of like pollution, like the air is killing me, right? For years my limbs stretched to the sky, a nest for birds to sit and sing. But now my branches suffer and my leaves don't bear the glow. They did so long ago, one day I was full of life. My sap was rich and I was strong. From seed to tree I grew so tall. Through wind and rain I could not fall, but now my branches suffer. And my leaves don't offer poetry to men of song. So like the tree doesn't even feel like it inspires others. You know, how poets and musicians and artists would look to the tree for inspiration and to paint the tree, to write poetry about life in the tree. Now, the tree doesn't even feel like it inspires or motivates. Trees like me weren't meant to live. If all this world can give, pollution and slow death. Oh Lord, I lay me down, no life's left be found, there's nothing for me. And then it pretty much repeats from there. And then the information on this particular track here, Wilson says it was about the environment, a tree thinking out loud, or silently thinking, about all the bad things that were happening to it. In the back of my mind, I might have been thinking of the tree in Rosemary Clooney's Tenderly. Jack Riley and I talked about the idea of this song, and then he wrote the lyrics. It's a big song because it's about how people treat the earth, but it's also a small song because it's about how one living thing can feel stripped down and wrong for the world. In a way, it's not so different from I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. I was just thinking that. I promise you, I was literally just thinking that in my mind. Because it is that, like, yes, of course he explains it brilliantly. It's his song. But you have that grand message of pollution and stuff, right? But then you also just have this message of isolation, aging, growing older, thinking about the past, worrying about the future. It's all captured in there, like, very, very touching. Like, extremely, extremely well done. This is such a great album to listen to. Hope that you guys are enjoying it. Anyways, kind of perfectly moving on from A Day in the Life of a Tree, let's move on to the next track, which is Till I Die. Let's go.
I'm a cork on the ocean. My way. It kills my soul. These things I'll be till I die.
I think that on the album so far, Till I Die is the song that to me most is representative of that album artwork. It is incredibly gorgeous. Like it is just to me, it's goosebump inducing. Just the chord changes, are brilliant, slightly uneasy at certain points, but still so hard to turn away from, so beautiful to listen to. And I just totally lost my thought. But at the same time, especially lyrically, there's that little bit of existential dread that's happening. The lyrics, I'm a rock in a landslide. Before you even go on, I'm a rock in a landslide. Landslide's a bad thing. It's a disaster, going down. And I'm a rock in it. I'm part of the problem. I'm going down. Rolling over the mountainside. How deep is the valley? It kills my soul. Like wondering how much further down am I going to go? Like, just the writing in here is fantastic. I'm going to be 100% honest. We're almost through with the album. We're almost through. I'm going to make the statement, okay? I'm enjoying this a lot more than Pet Sounds. I really enjoy Pet Sounds, so don't take that as a negative towards Pet Sounds. Take it as a positive towards Surf's Up. But it's so thoughtful. The variation is very strong in here. I don't know. Well, I do know. It's just really good. I'm a leaf on a windy day. Isn't that what from Firefly? What is it? What is his name? His name starts with a W, right? He also played the rooster, the rooster in Moana, whatever his name is. Anyways, I'm a leaf on the wind. There's lots of words. I'm a leaf on a windy day. Pretty soon I'll be blown away. How long will the wind blow until I die? That dread is creeping up on him. These things I'll be until I die. So at first, I think it's presented, and I take it as that dread. When you have that moment of existential crisis, and you're like, "Oh my God," right? It hits very thought, and you get lost in your thoughts. But I also think that there's a strength that's found in the ending outro when he just repeats, "These things I'll be until I die." Yeah, I know I'll die. Yes, in some ways, I'm a leaf on the wind being blown about, or I'm a rock in a landslide. But I'm still going to do my best. I'm still going to live. So it's not a, I don't think so. It maybe starts off as a slope a downward slope and with negative thinking, but I think by the end, it kind of turns around and is more of a positive reaffirmation of life. As he says, until I die, I'm still going to live today, basically. That's at least how I read it. It says here, Brian Wilson reportedly wrote Till I Die while suffering from an existential crisis, having recently threatened to drive his car off the Santa Monica Pier and ordered his gardener to dig a grave in his backyard. Whoa. Well, that's a plot. According to biographer David Leaf, these episodes were treated as jokes by Wilson's family and friends. In a 1970 interview, Wilson discussed his daily routine of going to bed in the early hours of the morning and sleeping until the afternoon. He added, "I'm not unhappy with life. In fact, I'm quite happy living at home." Says that part of this song was inspired by a late-night trip to the beach, in which he says, "Lately I'd be depressed and preoccupied with death. Looking out toward the ocean, my mind, as it did almost every hour of the day, worked to explain the inconsistencies that dominated my life. The pain, torment, confusion, and the beautiful music I was able to make. Was there an answer? Did I have control? Had I ever?" See, these questions. When you start going down that rabbit hole, oh man, you're just going. "Feeling shipwrecked on an existential island, I lost myself in the balance of darkness that stretched beyond the breaking waves to the other side of the earth." Even as he describes it, it's very poetic. "The ocean was so incredibly vast, the universe so large, and suddenly I saw myself in proportion to that. A little pebble of sand, a jellyfish floating on top of the water. Traveling with the current, I felt dwarfed. The next day, I began writing this track, perhaps the most personal song I ever wrote for the Beach Boys. In doing so, I wanted to recreate the swell of emotions that I'd felt on the beach that previous night." And when you look at the lyrics, there's not a lot there. But what is there packs so much meaning that, I mean, we just unpacked that meaning. And I think a lot of us, if not everyone, has experienced something like that once in a while. Maybe many more times in a while. But so good, so good, so good. That's incredibly thoughtful. Let's go ahead and move on into the last track, the last track of the album, which is going to be the title track, Surf's Up. This one I have heard many, many years ago. I'm gonna be honest, don't remember it. I'm sure I will remember it as soon as we start playing it. So let's do so. I didn't do the button.
A diamond necklace played the pawn, hand in hand.
Soared into that.
Canvas the town.
I like how the swan is represented by those vibes.
Coordinated room. A children's song.
The control of his voice. I mean, I love that deep piano. I mean, tell me your experience. Don't worry about my experience. I want to hear your experience. When you first listened to this album, whether it was at the time of release, near the time of release, or any time thereafter, when you first listened to the album as a whole, you sat down with it just as I have, and you got to the end, you got to this point, you're done. Like, how did you feel? I'm genuinely curious. I know people come here for my reaction, but I want to know your reaction. I like to know other people's reactions too. Like, how did you feel? What did you think about this album? Because in a lot of ways, it leaves me speechless. I can't let it literally leave me speechless because I gotta talk. But this feels like a really great endpoint to the journey that we went on. And it's a relatively short journey, but just like the lyrics of Till I Die were, fewly worded. There weren't a lot of words in there. It wasn't very verbose. It's about all the meaning. It's about the musical impact. And in this track, in Surf's Up, it's what, 4 minutes? 4 minutes and 13 seconds long. And there's what, 3 different sections in here? Like, they pack it in. And it makes sense thematically, well, I think. And musically, it definitely does. But each part sounds different from the other coming before. And the final part, with just all their voices cascading in this kind of almost reluctant celebration, kind of puts a good bittersweet note on this album, which once again is so filled with activism and messages and depth and introspection. A little bit of dread, but a little bit of hope as well. From seed to sprout, this one has everything. one thing that I know is obvious with the Beach Boys, but I want to concentrate on this track because it's where I really picked up on it, is just how strong their vocals are. I mean, yes, it's obvious. Duh, you're like JP. That's like the thing about them. Like, yeah, I know, but for example, in that first part, the way that he slides up into that high note, like, how incredible is that? I think that sometimes singing gets overlooked at just how hard it is to sound like that. I think is incredible. The change from part 1 to part 2, then part 3, I think it all just rolls together super, super well. It's just so impressive. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just so impressive the way that they put it all together and make these little mini epics in 4 minutes, where some bands it takes 15 minutes or 20 minutes to make. You know, they did it all here in 4 minutes. A diamond necklace played the pawn. Hand in hand, some drummed along to a handsome mannered baton, bygone, bygone. A blind class aristocracy, back through the opera glass you see, the pit and the pendulum drawn. Columnated ruins domino, canvas the town and brush the backdrop. Are you sleeping? Hung velvet overtaken me, dim chandelier awakened me, to a song dissolved in the dawn. Each of these little stanzas feels like a stanza in a poem. Like, I have no idea what we're talking about. No idea at all. But regardless of whether I know the meaning or not, I know that there is one, and I know it's deep, and I love the way it's written. The music hall, a costly bow, the music all is lost for now to a muted trumpeter swan. Columnated ruins domino, blah, 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 blah. Are you sleeping, Brother John? I really can't even, like, guess at what the first part's about. Like, it talks about, I think, old things, like a blind class aristocracy, opera glasses, ruins, dominoing. Are you sleeping? Like, are you awake to the change in the world? I think. Second part. Dove-nested towers, the hour was strike the street quicksilver moon. Carriage across the fog, two-step to lamplight cellar tune. Like, very quickly they've described a journey, and they set the scene and setting. And they describe this carriage across the fog and going to a cellar. The laughs come hard in Audling scene. The glass was raised, the fire rose. The fullness of the wine, the dim last toasting, while a port adieu or die. Okay, so there's a celebration going on. It's a festivity, and they're like, celebrate tonight, and tomorrow we may die, kind of thing. A choke of grief, heart hardened. I, beyond belief, a broken man, too tough to cry. I like that line. A broken man, too tough to cry. Surfs up, aboard a tidal wave, come about hard and join. The young and often spring you gave. I heard the word, wonderful thing, a children's song. Let me just get into the Wikipedia article for this one, because I'm actually not sure. The last part, a child is the father of the man. A child is the father of the man, a child's or children's song. Have you listened as they played? Their song is love, and the children know the way. That's why the child is the father to the man. I kind of get it with what he said, because he kind of revealed it when he says their song is love. Like, love is a man's father in a sense. Let's go strictly to the Wikipedia article on this one, because I'm definitely missing some darts on the board here. Nothing in the song relates to surfing. The title is a play on words referring to the group shedding their image. Kind of like what I said. The lyrics describe a man at a concert hall who experiences a spiritual awakening and resigns himself to God and the joy of enlightenment. The latter envisioned as a children's song. Okay, that makes sense. Musically, the song was composed as a two-piece movement. Don't care about that part. I just want to know, like, the background information. I want to know, like, that stuff. According to Parks, the song did not have a title until after the touring members of the band returned from their tour in Britain. He said he had witnessed Dennis Wilson complaining that the group's British audiences had ridiculed them for their striped shirt stage outfits, which inspired him to write the last lines of the song and suggest to Brian that the piece be titled Surf's Up, which he said felt wild because surfing isn't related to the song at all. He said, this song has nothing to do with surfing. Why would I name it Surf's Up? There is a weak sense of tonal stability throughout the piece. Key modulations, minor, seventh, blah, blah. That's not for me. That's not for me. I want to know about this other stuff. I want to know about the lyrics. The lyrics also espouse themes related to childhood and God, similar to songs written for Smile. The title is a play on words. We already went over that part. Starr further described it as a very serious song with an underlying somber tone for much of its duration. That is leavened by wordplay, which there is tons of that going on in here. There's a lot of information on this particular track. But what I can tell you is it's a really fantastic conclusion to the album. And once again, kind of leaves you on a bittersweet note. Not as in musically, not like, ooh, I didn't really like this song. No, it just leaves you with this, like, a seed of doubt, but a sprout of hope. Honestly, that's the best way I can describe it. What an incredible album, though. Like, this is a very, very strong album. I said it a little bit ago, but to me, this is kind of stronger than Pet Sounds. Like, off of a first listen, I have no doubt of that. Favorite tracks for me personally, I would definitely have to go with Disney Girls. I really enjoyed that. Probably also Don't Go Near the Water, and then If I Can Say It Till I Die. Those were my favorite tracks if I had to pick, but I will tell you off the top of my head that all of these are fantastic. There's not a weak track on this album. This is satisfying. You know, sometimes, actually pretty rarely, but sometimes you listen to an album and you're like, okay, it was fine, but it wasn't like, This was, Let me know what songs in here made you go, And then maybe the ones that made you go, Maybe the whole album made you go that way. Let me know. I would love to hear and read your thoughts in the comments down below. Before you leave, before you head out, press the like button. Press the subscribe button. If it's your first time here, don't make it your last. Introduce yourself. You have to stand up in front of the class, present yourself, introduce yourself, your hobbies, your likes, who you are, where you came from. I would love to hear from you, especially. You can support the channel over on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You don't have to, but it's there as an option for you. And otherwise, appreciate you being here, listening to me talk, listening to the Beach Boys talk, sing, create, deliver, and I hope that you enjoyed your time here. Come on back tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then. Bye.